Have you ever felt regret or responsibility for something that you've said or done, even when it doesn't even belong to you? Yes, this is guilt. And sometimes guilt can be a great motivator. It can help us to be a better person. But other times, too much guilt can make us feel burdened down. I want to talk to you about tips on how to let go of the guilt and feel free. My name is Virgia Davidson. I'm a mental health consultant. I help managers to keep top performers happy at work. Let's talk about it. So, where does guilt come from? It's a social emotion, a signal that something might be off in or interactions with others, but sometimes guilt can be misplaced or even a way to manipulate. But did you know there's something called toxic guilt? And this type of guilt, it's that type that hinders the person. It makes them feel stuck, where they start to blame themselves or look at themselves as a bad person as a whole. This one is totally counterproductive. So how do we break free from this toxic kind of guilt? Well, the first thing is acknowledge that you are feeling guilty. Don't bury it down under all these emotions, because if you bury it, the way it comes out might not be the way that you want it to, or it might be a way that you're not the most proud of. The next tip I'll share is please challenge that negative thought or belief. What ends up happening is whenever we have the thought of I'm not good enough or it's all my fault, we just take it to be true. But what if it is not true? So ask yourself, am I really a bad person if I made a mistake? Well, everyone does make mistakes from time to time. So talk back rather than accepting. I also want you to ask yourself, is your guilt justified? A simple conversation can make the world of a difference. Validate if indeed what you're saying is actually true, or maybe it's an interpretation, but it all starts with checking in with the other person. Sometimes that could be very helpful. Another thing that could happen is you might focus on all the negative things that you've done. And it might be so hard to identify that there are things in your life that you've done that's been good. So I would say reflect on the good things that you've done, because guilt often makes us feel bad about who we are. It often makes us feel stuck. So by looking at the positive things that you've done in different areas of your life, it can help manage that discomfort. And the other thing I'll mention is sometimes our guilt can subtract from us. It can make us feel like we don't want to do anything, and therefore our needs get placed last. It's so important to take good care of yourself, even though you might not feel like it. So important. And the other thing is, it's okay to admit that, you were wrong if it does come to that. And sometimes an apology is all it takes. Sometimes we need to just sit down and have a conversation, reflect on what we're doing. And if it's the type of guilt that's the positive one and it helps to motivate us, we can actually start to make steps to change our lives in a positive way. And the last tip I'll share is not everything you can control. It's so important to be mindful of the things that belong to you and the things that belongs to someone else, and letting the things that don't belong to you go. And sometimes it takes some reflective questioning in terms of what is my part? What is the other person's part? What's one thing that I could do a little bit different next time? So just really taking that space to think and reflect, and just focusing on the things you can change. I know sometimes having too much guilt can be very stressful and very overwhelming. And if you're noticing you're doing all these things and the guilt just won't go away, be sure to talk to a mental health professional. They can help you to understand what the deeper root behind the guilt is. Because yes, I talked about these other things, but it might be something else. And then they can equip you with the different coping strategies to help you to navigate. I hope these tips were helpful. Be sure to tune in next time.